So if you've been looking forward to an episode all about business storytelling, then I'm going to have to ask you to wait just 1 week, because this week I was in London and I couldn't help but being inspired by media coverage about the Platinum Jubilee. So I decided to make this show all about royal communication. With the Platinum Jubilee in London this weekend, you might not think that the royal family offers much to learn in terms of communication. But think again. As I sit here with the trooping of the colours to inspire me, I share some communication insights from the royals. I'm Corinne Wilhelm, and as well as being a Brit in Berlin, I am also an international business communication coach, ensuring that smart, non-native speakers of English secure the recognition and career that they deserve, anywhere in the world and in any international team. The Expert Speak English podcast is here to help you speak up at work and secure the right career for you. Inspirational and international. So, patriotic or not, having just come back from a short trip to London, I discovered firsthand that it's difficult not to get wrapped up in the media hype around this event. After the saga around Brexit, the never-ending Brexit, closely followed by COVID, and the current saga around Boris Johnson's partying despite restrictions, the British society is really looking forward to a 4-day celebration. At 96 years old, this lady is phenomenal. She's making official visits, complete with a speech in each and every one, and having to look her best in front of the critical eyes of the camera. It's not as glamorous as you might expect. Having been the Queen for 70 years, she has seen many prime ministers come and go, and frankly, having to meet with some of those often arrogant creatures every single week, exhausting at best, especially given that the Queen is expected to remain politically neutral, a gold medal in diplomacy from my point of view. So the Queen, like all of us, is just a family member, and like any other family, it has its crazy and curious moments, right? So, like any personal brand, this mother, sister, daughter has experienced her fair share of drama and conflict, troubles and strife, quirky personalities and cultures. So, the Commonwealth has caused some concern over the years, and the Queen is currently the head of 15 states, the recent being the new state Barbados since last year. So clearly, in terms of being a communicator, she also needs to be aware of the intercultural differences, taboos, and traditions. No doubt she has some great advisors, because you never hear about her making intercultural mistakes, despite the amount of travelling that she does. So she obviously reads her notes, in contrast to some other politicians and celebrities. And over the 70 years during state visits, she's graciously accepted an elephant from Cameroon, a black jaguar from Brazil, and a beaver from Canada. They were all donated to London Zoo on her return. Refusing gifts, no matter how big, is simply not an option in some cultures. Then there's the issue of quirky personalities and cultures. Elizabeth II unexpectedly took to the throne in 1952. She was just a young thing at 25 and plunged into action, in at the deep end. If there hadn't have been the culture and the traditions around the royal family, I don't think she would have been ready for that. But can you imagine how hard it must have been to gain respect amongst a myriad of advisors and politicians twice or 3 times her age? The Queen has worked every single week with a total of 14 prime ministers, including Boris Johnson. Imagine having to listen to this idiot once a week with his scruffy suit and just got out of bed candy floss hair. You've got to give it to her. This must have been painstaking. So if you dread the odd meeting, imagine how much she dreaded being kind and civil to such a babbling idiot. That poker face of hers and her mastery of silence, discretion, and a healthy dose of diplomacy, she certainly excels in communication. So, despite Queen Elizabeth II being the nominal leader of the UK since 1952, making her the country's longest serving monarch, worldwide she's quite an icon in her own right, isn't she, really? But in reality, the Queen has no real power in British government. Instead, her role is actually more symbolic than anything else. And I could imagine this is extremely frustrating. And yet, she does it with such a degree of demeanour. And somehow she always seems approachable. When it comes to traditions and rituals, that gives the society in which she's working, the UK, it gives them a degree of being solid, dependable, predictable. So things like the national anthem, the coronation traditions, the trooping of the colours, and so on, these all provide a certain predictability that brings people together. Not only in the UK, but I think in most countries, we're all looking forward to being sociable again, being upbeat, aren't we? We all have those years, don't we, where life is throwing you a curveball. For the Queen, it was 1992, when there was not only a big fire at Windsor Castle, her sacred place, but there had been massive publicity around Princess Diana and the public discovery that the Duchess of York was having an affair with her financial advisor. And she was very close to her mum, who died in 2002. So she's not new to grief. But of course, it's not long since her husband died. And life never runs smoothly for anyone. But I, for one, am glad that I can suffer in silence, away from the public eye and the press. So the modern expectations of marriage, child rearing, and family have really evolved in those 70 years. In her generation as a young mother, it was expected to carry on as normal, leaving your family behind. But Princess Diana, for instance, struggled with that. And that kind of triggered a new era of parenting. And indeed, the Queen has often been portrayed as being hard, distanced, and cold towards her family. But what you have to remember is that culture is a behavioral creep from one generation to another. It's difficult to question things, especially if you are essentially living in a bubble. The Queen seems very traditional, but actually, if you think about it, she is in some ways rather progressive. For instance, back in 1976, when I was just 5 years old, the Queen was the first member of the royal family to send an email during a visit to the Royal Signals and Radar establishment in Malvern via ARPANET. Despite not needing to have a passport or driving license, the Queen learnt to drive in the military in the 1940s. So as long as she is driving unmarked vehicles, she can take the wheel from time to time, often whilst hunting. So allow me, if I may, to summarise for you the main takeaways from this show, reflecting on the communication from a royal perspective as we celebrate the Platinum Jubilee this week. Patriotic or not, the Queen has a strong personal brand and is a strong intercultural communicator and a role model that provides assurance through the royal traditions. And she certainly has grit because international travel is exhausting. Communication and change go hand in hand as our society demands more openness and equality. The royal family, too, is experiencing a need to communicate more transparently, regularly, and respectfully. And finally, if you would love to take a quiz about the royals with some quirky insights, then head over to englishspeakingexperts.com/podcast, where you will find comprehensive show notes, including some additional nuggets of royal knowledge specific to communication. So that's it for today. I need to go and buy some cucumber and strawberries for my Pimm's and lemonade this evening. Very British, darling. So if you enjoy a nice cocktail from time to time, then why not treat yourself to Pimp Your English? We meet in Berlin and together we walk and talk in English to prepare you for the specific business communication or performance at work that you need. We walk for about an hour and a half, in English of course, and then we enjoy a cocktail together. My treat. So check out the details and find a time to unwind after a busy day at work with me, your British-born but internationally thinking business communication coach. Take care now, have a fabulous week, and I'll see you next week on the Experts Speak English podcast. Be the very best communicator that you can be. Goodbye for now.